Hi there, I'm IELTS Master Lee, and welcome to this IELTS Vocabulary for Academic Reading lesson. Today's theme is the effects of climate change. This is a very useful lesson if you want to improve your vocabulary or if you want to improve your reading skills. It's great for both, so let's get started. Let's first talk about using IELTS reading tests for vocabulary study. IELTS reading tests are excellent for vocabulary study and for improving your grammar. Nearly every paragraph has a lot of high-level words, collocations, set phrases, synonyms, antonyms, examples of cohesive devices, and more. Just by examining one paragraph, you can learn lots of great language, so don't let any reading tests go to waste. Get everything you can from them. You can use your previous reading tests to improve your academic vocabulary tremendously. Reading tests are not just for testing yourself. After you're finished with the test, look back through it slowly and grab all of these great words and grammatical structures and set phrases and collocations and synonyms and cohesive devices and all of this great stuff that's in your IELTS reading test. You can be sure that this vocabulary is useful for the IELTS because it's already on a sample test. So in this lesson, we're going to look at a paragraph from an IELTS sample test and analyze some of the great vocabulary from it. I hope you're ready. I sure am. Let's go. First, we have this passage from Cambridge IELTS 11, and I've included a link to this book in the description of this video. I'm going to read it first. Such is our dependence on fossil fuels, and such is the volume of carbon dioxide already released into the atmosphere, that many experts agree that significant global warming is now inevitable. They believe that the best we can do is keep it at a reasonable level, and at present the only serious option for doing this is cutting back on our carbon emissions. But while a few countries are making major strides in this regard, the majority are having great difficulty, even stemming the rate of increase, let alone reversing it. Consequently, an increasing number of scientists are beginning to explore the alternative of geoengineering, a term which generally refers to the intentional large-scale manipulation of the environment. According to its proponents, geoengineering is the equivalent of a backup generator. If Plan A, reducing our dependency on fossil fuels, fails, we require a Plan B, employing grand schemes to slow down or reverse the process of global warming. So before we continue with the vocabulary, one thing you can do to practice your IELTS vocabulary and your IELTS speaking is to try and copy my reading of this test paragraph. So listen to my reading of this test paragraph and then try to copy my voice, including where I stop, my intonation, how I pronounce different words. If you record yourself, then you can listen to your voice and my voice and compare the difference between the two. This is a great way to practice. Okay, next let's look at some of the vocabulary in this paragraph. So vocabulary highlights words and expressions. First is dependence, such as our dependence on fossil fuels. We depend. We require fossil fuels to live. If we don't have fossil fuels, we can't live well. This is dependence. Next, volume. Now, the scientific meaning of volume isn't important here. We just need to understand that volume is related to the amount of carbon dioxide. Okay, so volume here is related to the amount of carbon dioxide, and that's what's important here. Next, number 3, inevitable. Something that's inevitable is something that's definitely going to happen. There's no chance that it won't happen. There's a 100% chance that it will happen, so it's inevitable. It says here, many experts agree that significant global warming is now inevitable. It will definitely happen. They believe that the best we can do is keep it at a reasonable level. The best we can do. Now, this isn't a difficult phrase, the best we can do, but I highlighted it because it's a nice set of words that go together well. The best we can do, the best I can do, the best he or she can do. So something worth remembering. Next, cutting back. Cutting back means to reduce. So cutting back on carbon emissions means to reduce carbon emissions. Next, we have carbon emissions. You don't need to understand what carbon is in science, but you do need to understand that carbon emissions are not good for global warming. And so emission here, or emission, is something you produce and put out, like a smoke. You can emit smoke from a building. You can emit carbon because you're creating something. So carbon emissions are not good for global warming. Next, we have making major strides. Number 7, making major strides. This means making a lot of progress. Making major strides. So when you stride, you're taking a really big step. And major strides is a nice collocation. Making major strides means taking big steps or making progress. Okay, number 8, stemming. Stemming means stopping a little bit or slowing down. Here we have great difficulty even stemming the rate of increase, even slowing down, even reducing the rate of increase. And after this, we have let alone. Now, this one is a little bit difficult. All right, so let's read the sentence before we get into the meaning. But while a few countries are making major strides in this regard, the majority are having great difficulty even stemming the rate of increase, let alone reversing it. So after you use the phrase let alone, you need to have a less likely, a less possible result. So here, A is stemming or reducing the rate of increase. And the lower chance result, or the result that's less possible, is reversing it. So after let alone, we have the lower chance result. Let me give you another example. It's very difficult that children like eating vegetables, let alone loving them. So we have like eating vegetables. There's not a high chance that children like eating vegetables, but there's an even lower chance that children love eating vegetables, and that's how we use let alone. There's a low chance that children like eating vegetables, let alone love them. Okay, that's let alone, number 9. Number 10 is intentional. This means on purpose, something you intend to do, something you try to do. And manipulation is to change by trying to change something. So to usually manipulate is to change with your hands. But here we're manipulating the environment. We're changing the environment. Next, according to its proponents. This is another phrase that I highlighted because I think it's a useful phrase for you to know. According to its proponents. Proponents are people who support something. So according to the people who support it, according to its proponents is number 12. Number 13, equivalent, something that is equal to. And number 14 is a backup generator. So in some houses, they have backup generators. If the electricity goes out at your house, then you can turn on the backup generator to create more electricity, even if you don't have the main electricity from the city or from the power company. A backup generator. And then we have dependency down here, which is the same as dependence, number 1. Reducing our dependency, such as our dependence. And then number 15, employing grand schemes. Employing here is not for people who work. It means using or implementing. And then a grand scheme is a big plan. Wow, lots of words in this one paragraph. Just one paragraph, and we had so many really, really useful, high-level phrases, collocations, expressions, and words. Great stuff. Before we continue, let's review these words and expressions real quickly. Number 1 is dependence. Number 2, volume. Number 3, inevitable. Number 4, the best that we can do. Number 5, cutting back. Number 6, carbon emissions. Number 7, make major strides. 8, stemming. 9, let alone. 10, intentional. 11, manipulation. 12, according to its proponents. 13, equivalent. 14, backup generator. And 15, employ grand schemes. The reason that I repeat these words is because reading the words once is not enough. You need to look at them multiple times, try to use the words, pronounce the words, really make them your friends. Get to know these words, all right, so that you at least can understand them in the reading. If at best, you can use them in your speech or even your writing, because these are great words, very useful. Before we finish up, we have a few more vocabulary highlights. First is, such is our dependence and such is the volume of carbon dioxide. This is also quite a difficult phrase and not too common. This is a little bit rare. This such is, and we have such is, this is the common part. Such is refers to something that has already happened that we can't really change. And it's usually not too positive. So here we have, such is our dependence on fossil fuels. Our fossil fuels and our dependence on fossil fuels is already set. It's not something that we can change. It happened in the past, and we can't really change it right now. But we're looking at the current state of it. And then the same thing, such is the volume of carbon dioxide. We have the current amount of carbon dioxide that's a result of things that happened in the past, and we can't really change those. So we have, such is our dependence on fossil fuels, and such is the volume of carbon dioxide already released into the atmosphere, that many experts agree that significant global warming is now inevitable. If I make this sentence easier, I could say, we are very dependent on fossil fuels, and we already have released a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Because of this, many experts agree that we will definitely have significant global warming. Okay, so that's such is, such is. You don't need to use this in your speech. You don't need to use this in your writing. But if you see it in your reading, try to remember what it means. It talks about a current state and something we can't really change because it's already happened. Next, for 2, I have some examples of referencing that they use in this paragraph. This helps with the cohesion of the paragraph. It makes it easier to read. So first we have they, and they goes back to experts in the previous sentence. Then we have this. At present, the only serious option for doing this. This is keep it at a reasonable level before the comma. Next we have in this regard. In this regard. But while a few countries are making major strides in this regard, and here it's also cutting back on our carbon emissions or keeping them at a reasonable level. Next, we have the majority. The majority of what? Well, the majority of countries. The majority of countries. This is from the beginning of this sentence. And then the last one that I have highlighted here, according to its proponents. According to its proponents. Who are its? What is its? Its is the people who like geoengineering. So its is geoengineering, and its proponents are the people who support geoengineering. All right, just some other highlights for you to look at before we finish up. So, suggestions for how to use reading test vocabulary for practice. First, one thing you can do is put the words and phrases that you don't know onto flashcards. Just a basic paper or card. You can use an index card, and on one side, write the sentence without the word or phrase, and on the other side, write the word or phrase. And you can test yourself with one side and the other. Also, after reading the paragraph several times, try to rewrite the paragraph by only looking at the vocabulary words or phrases you have selected. So first you'll write down a bunch of vocabulary words that are new and interesting for you, and then read the paragraph several times. After you're ready, try to rewrite the paragraph only looking at the vocabulary words and phrases. And then finally, you can compare your version with the original to see what is different if there are mistakes, or if you basically got the same idea. This is a great way to remember this vocabulary. And finally, you can look up more example sentences using a dictionary or search engine like Google. And after that, you can write your own example sentences. Also a great final step. Okay, fantastic. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching it. For more IELTS practice, information, strategies, and techniques, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us at youtube.com/IELTSmaster or IELTS-master.com. Just click the button on there to subscribe. And tell me, what would you like to see next? Let me know in the comments. Have a fantastic day.